One tribe, together we vibe. Good energy, high vibration, great conversation is what we provide. I am your boy, Ballin' Boy Trey, and today we got a special guest joining us, Miss LaShanna Trip. How you doing?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you, Trey.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. Glad to
Glad
have
to be
you.
here.
How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
Feeling
I'm
good?
feeling great. Yeah, you got. Can you feel that good energy?
Oh yeah.
Send it your way.
It's hot. So let everyone know who you is and where you from that don't know you.
Yeah. Okay. So, again, my name is LaShanna Trip. If I can get that out right, you said my name better than I did. What am I? First of all, I'm still learning. Still learning who I am, and that's a it's a there was a time probably when I started out doing art. I'm my background is in arts. Grew up wanting to be in film, do theater, and just could never, as I can honestly say, I wasn't good enough to get it where I wanted to be. Didn't have the proper guidance, so always wanted to be in education. So in education, I found my lane, being able to give students what I didn't have in the art form. So being able to help students get where they want to be by showing them how to stay on track, how to be focused. And I still teach right now. Like I do arts education, but it's more so on this path. I'm currently a leader at a school called Primer Michael School, and I'm over the 6th through 8th grade students and incorporating what I do with the arts into that. As far as Five Little Penguins, I play the role of Mama. And so,
Okay.
yeah, just excited
We
about
gonna we
where
gonna
we're
get
going.
into the Five Little Penguins and in that role, Mama, playing Mama on the big screen.
Yes.
But like, how was it growing up? Like, what did you grow up at?
Well, I'm not from here. I was born in California, Montclair, California. Spent some time in Oklahoma when my parents, we moved there when I was about 6 years old. They opened up a barbecue restaurant that ended up closing because of racism. The people my mom worked for saw how well it was doing and literally told people not to go there. And so they ended up
Wow.
having to shut it down. And she made her way to New York. Had an uncle that lived up there. We stayed with him for a while, but really grew up in New Rochelle. So I'm a product of New York State schools, New Rochelle High School, class of '92. Went to Bethune-Cookman down in Daytona Beach, Florida, and learned how to live on my own. Got through school through loans and some scholarships, but like my necessities, my parents couldn't pay for them. So I ended up doing hair just to pay for my things that, young ladies need. We need the pads and all of the hygiene, those things, and just really learned how to, provide for myself because my parents couldn't afford it. And so, yeah, so that's kind of like my history. Ended up here because this is where my mom is from.
Oh, your mom from Alabama.
Yeah, my
She's
mom
from
was a Southern
Birmingham.
girl. She's from Bessemer, actually.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, Joseph Jack Jones was her dad. That was my grandfather, and he was in a bad car accident while I was pledging Zeta Phi Beta. I'm Zeta, not active, but I'm still a Zeta. Still love my sorors. But while I was online, he was in a bad car accident, which took them from New York. They moved down here to take care of him, and this is where they both passed away at. So
Wow.
stayed here. Got married to an awesome dude. Most of y'all probably know him, Constantine the MC. And this is why I'm still here because of family. But yeah,
Wow, that's crazy. So
Yeah.
you started in New York, but you finished in Florida.
yes,
So that's when you graduated college and you started your career.
somewhat.
So
I had some training in theater. We were allowed to take what they called the class test at Bethune-Cookman College, which is now Bethune-Cookman University. And I ended up choosing a class in theater. I knew I wanted to act, but in high school, it just was not a welcoming environment. New Rochelle was like a hodgepodge. You had like all of the different, diversity groups at that school, but I never found my tribe. I like knew a little bit of everybody in every category. And when I auditioned, I went to the first rehearsal and didn't feel welcome, so I left. Never went back. But at Cookman, I met Dr. It wasn't Dr. Mr. Dunstan Wharton, who also has passed away, and he ended up showing me, allowing me to grow, and showed me how to write, and I got into spoken word, And so there was where I really started my love for theater. So when I graduated within Cookman, I ended up in New York for a little while, but things weren't working out. And so not having the connections to really pursue my craft, like I said earlier, no guidance to, how do you, plan your path and how do you get started? How do you find mentors doing what you love to do and, help guide your ship? I didn't have that. And so found out really, really quickly how hard it was. And so I knew I wanted to go off and get my master's, but every master's program I applied to, I didn't get in. And it was crazy because I was like, okay, God, this is not working out.
Why do you think you didn't get in, though?
I'm not a good test taker. And a lot of them at that time, they were requiring GRE scores, and I failed every single one. Even with the waiver, like they would give you a waiver if you didn't have the income to pay for the GRE, and didn't pass, just did not pass. And because of what I soon found out when I went back to get certified in teaching, there is a real thing called test anxiety, and I could do the content. But I couldn't take, like, when I got into the test, like, I froze up. And it wasn't bad at New Rochelle High School because we had to take a Regents exam to graduate. And I was fine, but it was something that happened between, like, my upper high school years and college where test anxiety became a real thing for me. And I think because I couldn't get into the program, I started building up this anxiety of having to pass and not knowing how to, get myself prepared for it. And so, and I ended up doing that paper as part of my teaching certification. And so, like now, I incorporate some of what I've learned in theater about, how to breathe properly, how to release your anxiety and focus your mind before you get into test taking.
Is that easy to teach? Just after like what you experienced going through it, being able to teach it to somebody that's dealing with the same thing, like, is it easier to teach to them to allow them to become comfortable in that area? Because I know that has to be challenging to do.
It's challenging only because it's about consistency and discipline. And I think a lot of, because I can talk about discipline in a minute, because I didn't have the discipline to get up and work out, go and walk, and all of those things. Anything you do and you want to do it well, you have to be disciplined. Like even in theater, there's a term that I used to teach my students. And it's artistic discipline. As an artist, your job is, if you really love your craft, you should be working on your craft every day, whatever
Absolutely.
Capacity that is. And what does your craft require? For us as performers, we want to make sure that we're in good health, that we're in a great mental state, that we are relaxed going into a scene. We're able to take our characters, be those characters, and then leave the characters where they are, right? Once we're done. And then we have to be accessible to our lives so that we have balance.
So what's the most important part about that? Is it the mental, the physical, or the skill?
I want to say the first thing really is mental. Just from having been there, I don't think, because as you can see, like we have a lot of celebrities that are great actors, great performers, right? But some of them have committed suicide, right? Some of them have challenges happening in their lives that they don't know how to navigate. And so I think mentally for me, it's a connection with yourself and your mental well-being based on your belief system for me, right? So just having gone through it, I just know that if I'm not in a great mental state and I'm not in a great place spiritually, that I'm no good on set. Right, I'm not good in the craft. But then I also found, like, even in the theater, for me, doing theater allows us to be better connected, if you will. Like, it allows us to focus on not just ourselves, but like we're going through this journey, and the journey is a lot different than it is for film, because we're able to analyze our characters more, get deep into context, and we typically work from the beginning of the production through to the end. Whereas in film, you might be working in scene 2 and 3 at the same time, and you don't know what's going to happen to your character. You know what I mean? And so you have to be in a really great state of mind to be able to get somewhere quickly, right, as that character, and be able to drop it and pull back and refocus, and you might have to redo that scene. Theater's a little different. So I just kind of think about that, and just for me, I have to be connected with God. Like, God is my source, and I just really believe that without having that in place, that I'm no good. Like,
absolutely. So, as a teacher, What are one of the things that the kids mostly struggle with when it comes to like theater?
The biggest struggle they have really is discipline.
Discipline? Because you teach from what, like you started in like middle, from so those ages are what, like 10?
Well, initially, when I first received my teaching certification for theater, I was completely secondary, so I did 9 through 12. But before that, I was working with Make It Happen Theater, and we taught kids from the age of 7 all the way up through the age of 17. And so that gave me a really great background in just like all age groups. And when you get your certification, you're certified to teach from kindergarten through 12th grade. So I had the great experience of being able to have worked with all of those ranges of age groups and understand the dynamics of every single one, because they're not all the same. You know, you're K through second, you need way more energy, and they, you know, you can be goofy and they don't judge you. You know, your third through fifth kind of the same way, but like once you get around middle school, they're very judgy. Right. Okay. But they're flexible because they're still trying to find out, you know, who am I? What do I really like? Well, I think I like this one, but Shay Shay don't like that one. So I might not like that because I want Shay Shay to like me. They're really trying to figure themselves out. Once you get to secondary, those kids are like, you know, they're getting ready to get into, you know, the working world. They're becoming adults and they want to be taken, you know, a lot more seriously. And they want to have more leadership. And so everything, like all of those different levels are different. But what I find is it's more challenging for the secondary students and even some of the middle to really listen and trust you. Like there's a great like breakdown when it comes to trust, just because of the dynamics that happen at home, you know, where, you know, you might not have a dad in the house, or you might be from a single parent household and you might not have certain structures in place. So a lot of them might come in kind of thinking, I don't need to listen to you because my daddy ain't at the house, my mom ain't at the house or whatever, and you can't tell me what to do. So you're wading through that dynamic and you can't really teach them until they trust you. You know what I mean? So it's like building that trust, letting them know that you're there for them, but also letting them know that they just can't do what they want to do in the classroom. And in order for them to get to the fun stuff, they have to get the discipline and get the understanding. And then just, you know, if they understand or know that you're in their corner and that you're not that you're listening to them too, then you can get the discipline, but you have to wade through a lot of stuff to get there.
What's a go-to gym that you use for that?
A go-to gym, like a quote or something?
Yeah, like how you get them, like what I'm trying to say is when they're dealing with that, you as a teacher, how do you comfort them through that?
I have several go-to gyms, but I think the biggest one that sticks out to me is the reason why I stuck with teaching, and it came from Rita Pearson. My second year of teaching, after I had all the drama in my classroom, and I was like, I don't understand these kids. What am I going to do? We went to a professional development session and we watched a video, a TED Talk of her doing a talk on educating children. And one key thing she said was, children don't learn from people they don't like. And that was a nugget because, you know, sometimes as educators come into the room and I used to be at odds with my colleagues too, because I used to wonder why if you love this, why are you yelling at the kids all day? Right, like that wasn't something I did. Yeah. I just knew I didn't have classroom management. My kids were coming in kind of doing everything, and they expected, because it was theater, they could do whatever they wanted to do. I was like, well, this is not working, but I want it to be fun. I want them to feel welcome. How do I set this up in a way that they feel welcome, but I still get what I need them to get? And so when she said that, I said, oh, okay, you got to like them. And then there was a brother, O.P. Key, he's from Alabama, but he would come and do talks. Van Phillips is my former principal and a good friend of mine. And he would bring O.P. Key to come in all the time. And he, one year, had this demonstration where he had dirt in an aquarium. Well, he had an aquarium first. And then he started putting dirt in it. And that was his illustration of what the kids come into our classrooms with, right? So his interpretation was, you have kids that are coming into your classroom with all of this dirt. And your job as an educator, before you teach them, is to go through that dirt and sift the dirt out so that they can have a playing field in order for you to teach them and you can make a connection.
That's a good one.
Between those two professionals, it changed my perspective on working with kids. And so, like, I didn't yell. Like, I was like, I can't do the yelling thing, number one, because first of all, these kids, they're not going to listen to you. You can't yell at them and they get it, right? So it started my journey was, finding out where they come from. So it was what? Seeking to understand before being understood was another nugget we went by. So it was like, okay, you're late to my class. Well, let's step outside. Why are you late? Okay, you didn't have breakfast.
You get to know them to understand.
Right. You got to get to know them, know the situation, what they're bringing into the room, as opposed to yelling at them because they're eating their breakfast, or they hadn't eaten your breakfast, or they're late, or they don't have their homework, or whatever the case was. They're not prepared. So, you sleeping in my class? Why? Because you're working a nighttime job. I didn't know that. You see what I'm saying?
You think it help you be more understanding towards the personal lives that they might have outside of school, or the things that they're going through, that they really trying to develop to understand, but without people like you, I'm just use myself for example, we never really get it. You know what I'm saying? Because I got it late. But when I did get it, I understood that when people are trying to help you through it, let them in. Yeah. Because it was a sense of judgment. Oh, I don't want them to know that. I don't want to, you know what I mean? So it was only certain things that I would allow. But then it would never get me farther. So I understand, like, in your role, how you have to really calm it down just to understand them. And I think that's very helpful, especially in, like, your area, what you do, because being in that area, that career field, you have a lot of people coming into it with no experience. They don't know where to start, but they have what it takes to do it. But a good teacher like yourself and what you have taught over the years helps a lot.
It does.
It really helps a lot.
And not having the experience is the experience. Like I tell people, like, you don't have to.
That's crazy.
Your experience should be whatever your life experience is. And I think it's showing people that even in acting, it really is about what have I lived and what do I have that can connect to the character that I'm portraying. And that was the dynamic I show with my kids. Like, it was so funny. I had a ninth grader. I love to put her name out because she's just Akira Wilson. And ninth grade year, I gave them this scenario. I said, okay, you're at the park and you get attacked by dogs. And she said, well, I'm not scared of dogs. And I said, oh. I said, this is good. I said, okay, what are you afraid of? And I can't even remember what she said, because for me, it was a teachable moment for myself to know that I can't just give somebody this and, but what is the real fear, right? And so whatever that fear was that she mentioned, I said, well, I need you to imagine that that's the dog. Changed everything for her. And she was great. Like, she nailed it. And in that moment, I was like, that was a real teachable moment, because it allowed me as a teacher to see it's not just about giving somebody a scenario. It's about finding out for that one person what that imaginary thing has to be in order for them to get to the moment, for me to get what I want as a director.
I got to connect with you here to get this, because if I don't, I'm going to miss it.
Exactly.
Like you said, it was very much teachable, because she might not be scared of dogs, but it's something that she feared.
Right.
And yeah, I got you on that. Yeah, that was good. That was good though, because that's the first thing people say. Like, how you gonna give me something like that? I ain't scared of that. Like, that's not gonna do anything.
Right. And that kind of relates back to because I have in current situation, and this happened to when I was teaching with Jefferson County Schools. You have my thing is, I call parents when kids are acting up in my room. Like, I always, like, if I had a kid that pulled a cell phone out and they were trying to make a call during class, I'd be like, oh, you got your phone out. Call your mama. Right? Yeah. And they would be like I have some kids that be like, and they call their mom. And I'd be like, hey, Mrs. So-and-so, this is Mrs. Tripp. Your baby decided they wanted to pull their phone out in class and call. So I had them call you and let you know that they had their phone out while I was trying to teach. And, of course, that kid get in trouble, right? But then I would have a student that would be like, and you calling her for what?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I found out one girl, I had to take her outside because she was such a distraction. She was just trying to pull all the phone. I was like, yeah, let's step outside. So took her outside and found out that during her middle school years, she took care of her mother, right? So she took care of her mom and had to do everything for her mother. But then once she got to, like, ninth grade, her mom had a this boyfriend and living in the house, didn't know that he was being disrespectful to her and her siblings and called them all outside of their name, didn't believe him when they actually finally told her. So she had completely lost respect for her mom, right? And so in that dynamic, I couldn't tell her mom anything because she didn't have a respect for her mother. So what did I have to do? I had to become the mom of the person that listened, let her know, well, because you're such a leader, right? Like you find the good that kid brings to your classroom and you tell them what you're bringing into my room. This is what is amazing. This is what I need in the room. So we're going to put you in some leadership roles so that you can have other people, you can be a peer teacher, you can guide them, but this is what will not be tolerated. And in my classroom, this is what the expectation is for me. And if you can't listen to that, you're going to have to leave. Now, I appreciate what you've been through, but you have to understand that there are 25 other kids in that room that need to have my attention and need to get the respect. So I'm going to need you to do that. Can we do that together? So it's like you have to build that bridge with them, and they're just teachers that are not doing that.
For sure.
They're just not.
Another thing, as a teacher, like, how important it is to be able to control the room, to remain like the teacher. Because, some teachers, they don't know how to control the room. They don't know how to connect with each student. So they might miss something when it's really off of what's not aligned because it's something that connects each person with somebody.
Absolutely.
So my question to you is like, how you navigate the control of your class when you're teaching?
How important it is very important because otherwise you wouldn't be able to do what you need to do in that room. But the students have to understand, that you understand and respect where they're coming from. But you have a certain set of standards and you can't lower your bar for them, right? So just because you're here, if I'm the teacher in the room and I'm trying to get you to my level, I can't sink to your level, right? Which means if you cussing me out, I can't cuss you out. We're not going there. I'm just like, okay, since you have to have this, you're going to have that outside this room because that's not tolerated in here. And you have to remember that because there are other kids in that room, your job as an educator is to maintain a positive atmosphere in your room. And that a part of that is the respect. It's the respect of you with the students. It's the respect for the students with you and the respect of their peers in that room. And if they can't honor that, they have to leave. And you have administrators, like one of my dynamics now, and we're all kind of new starting this particular school out, but one of the dynamics we were dealing with at the beginning of the year was a need for this, them to allow this girl to feel like she was loved and she was respected because she wasn't getting that from her mom. But that was at the risk of her being toxic and disrespectful to everybody in her classroom. And I just wasn't accepting it. I was like, well, you either you deal with it because she can't come back in here and disrespect the other students in the room. That's it. That's my standard, gotcha. Right? So it's just, letting even your administrators, sometimes you have to have that tug of war with them and be like, that can't, because you want me to get to this mission. In order for me to reach the mission that you have for me, this is what I'm going to need as far as support is for my classroom. And if they can't do that, then at that point I will walk. Right. And then in this particular case, I didn't ask to go. God sent me. I never, when I left full-time teaching in 2019, I never had a desire to go back and teaching full-time, to be honest, because of the dynamic, the parents that didn't care, the administrators that were just trying to reach certain data goals, and I was thrown under the bus in certain situations and blamed for certain things. And I was like, okay, between, the administration not being supportive, the parents not being supportive, and the colleagues just yelling at the kids, that was too much. Like, I expect the kid to be the kid, right? They're going to come in with their own preconceived notions about what they need and what they want. And it's not your world, right? Absolutely. So, yeah. So, the other people within the framework of why I left teaching, they didn't want to be there. And you could see that. You could see that in how they responded to the children. You could see that in the way that their classrooms looked. And I just didn't want to be a part of that. For me, it felt like a very toxic environment. So navigating classroom management has to first come down to keeping your students safe in that room. They have to feel like they're in a safe environment. They have to be in a positive environment to learn. And you have to have, not in a sense of like, I'm controlling and it's not that kind of control. Yeah. It's a control. It's a gentle control. right? And it has to be a loving control where students respond because they know that you're going to protect them. They know that you care about their situation and you care about their learning. It includes everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep. And that does works. That does works because when a kid feels like, you're talking at them instead of talking to them to understand them, you misses everything that you try to get across.
Yes, everything.
And it doesn't work. But let's get into the 5 Lil Penguins.
Yes.
And let's get into your role, Mama. So you currently play Mama on the 5 Lil Penguins. Take us through your role and describe your role as a mama on the big screen.
Ooh, Mama on the big screen is like me embodying the mamas and the aunties and the grandmamas that were a part of my life growing up. So I feel, we talked earlier about, our own experiences and bringing those to our respective characters. And I get a sense of me being in there, but I also bring that no nonsense to the role that I don't necessarily have, but I channel my mom. Because my mom was, she was the no nonsense, right?
So basically your character aligns with you as a person quite equally.
Pretty much, for the most part, yeah. And a part of what I live and what I recall my mom being to me and to my siblings growing up. Yeah.
Being a mom on camera, that is.
I'm a mom, so
you're a mom.
I am. Okay, cool, we got 3 at the house.
Gotcha. So your mom, and what's the character name?
My character, is Mama.
Mama.
Her actual name. Her name is Teresa.
Teresa.
Yeah.
So Teresa, that mama, right? What's the difference between Teresa and Miss Tripp as a mother?
Teresa as a, I don't even know. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I can find any because there's something in most moms, those of us that actually care about our kids and want to see them do well, and don't take no crap. Like I don't know that there's a difference other than, we have the high expectations. Like I have high expectations of my own kids. When they were young, we strongly believed in discipline, but we also foremost believed in loving them because, again, kind of going back to the educator in the classroom, you gotta show love to these kids first before they'll ever respect you and before they'll actually listen to you. And so I think God He did it intentionally, right? So when we have kids, they're so cute and they're so cuddly, right? You just want to squeeze their cheeks and love them but then they start doing stuff and they start pushing the boundaries. And you're like, well, how am I going to get this kid to listen? Well, they got to be disciplined, right? But you do it with love. That's that tough love. It's like, I love you not enough to not let you go over the edge and kill yourself, right? And you give them boundaries and you bring them back to keep them within those boundaries so that they don't injure or hurt themselves.
Do you feel like now in today's time that kids don't get enough love in the household?
Absolutely. When I was substituting as a part of when I left teaching in 2019, I got into doing a lot of theater, contract theater jobs, developing programs, public speaking and theater, and going to schools and teaching them without the red tape, and it was amazing, right? But a part of that too was substitute teaching. One of my former administrators, Jai Hill, his brother is a very, like, he's not famous, but he maintains work on Broadway and film doing substitute teaching to be able to support his lifestyle. And so he was like, that might be a great advice for you. I was like, you know what, I'm going to take it. And so I began substituting in 2023. And I was at this one job where there was this kid in the classroom and literally like always had something to say. It was a third grade classroom. All just negative, and I was like, did my finger like this, come here. And I literally asked that baby. It was a longer conversation, but one of the crucial things I asked him was, do you not get love at home? And you know what he said? He just shook his head. And tears just started coming down his face. I said, give me a hug. I hugged that boy so tight. When I tell you from that day, and I only saw these kids in elementary school, they go through what's called specials, and they only see their special teacher once a week, and I was covering for an art teacher. And I only saw him once a week for 30 minutes, but every day he came in that 30 minutes, I never had another problem out of him that entire time. And so you have to give the kids love first. They won't respond because they don't know it, right? And none of they display what they know. So if all you're getting is anger, 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 guess what they saw? Anger. That's all they saw.
So, your 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 role on the Five Lil Penguins, how does it resonate to mothers today that have kids growing up now in this generation versus like how you grew up then?
Well, it's single mom. She Teresa is a single mom. And I don't want to give the story away because do want you guys to catch a
Yeah,
lot of
for
stuff
sure.
within watching the storyline. But her background is she is a single mother that has raised her children. With the husband that left the home, and so you that happened when we were growing up. Like our generation came through part of that. Right. So just, I don't want to put anyone else's business out there, but I know like people that are my age that have had that grew up in a single home. And the dynamics are very, very different. I grew up with both of my parents in the household, but I saw them have issues, but I saw them able to work through those issues. But even, with the passing of my parents from my older siblings, I'm the youngest girl, six of us, and I'm the youngest girl, three boys, three girls. I'm finding out from my sister just this year that there were instances where our dad was unfaithful. Right. And so, but they still, even within that, my mother confronted it and they dealt with it. But there are some things that happened when she was in her final stages of life and she was going through kidney disease and all of these things. I'm just finding like dad passed from cancer in February 2024, like 2 weeks after his 79th birthday. And I'm finding stuff out like, what? Like, how didn't, like, you know what I mean? Like family secrets, I guess you could say. And I'm like, whoa. So those dynamics really aren't much different. I think what the similarities are the same. We're trying to raise families without God, right? Who is love? How do you raise a family without God when God is love, right?
Impossible.
And so when you have those dynamics, whether you're a single mom or whether you got two parents in the household, if you're trying to raise your family without God being at the center of it, the enemy is going to break that family down because that's his mission. God told us in the word, be fruitful and multiply, right? And so his desire is for us to have families, for our families to thrive. But he never said that in having those families and that family structure, we were not going to have problems. So how do you weight those? You got to pray. You got to keep God first. And that's kind of like my lesson now, learning like, yeah, I hate to put stuff like this out there, but I'm literally in a possibly pending divorce, unknowingly. Like I didn't know we had gotten to this point, right? But that's what I've been dealing with since February. Like our anniversary, we were sat when we got married. We married on Valentine's Day, right? But our anniversary this year would have been our 17th year anniversary. And I found myself navigating a divorce I didn't know was coming. Like out of the blue, it's, I don't think we can help each other anymore. I don't think, like I'm just tired of the cycles. And meanwhile, God is telling me, be still and know that I'm God. Stand for your marriage, fight for your marriage. Meanwhile, and this is earlier this year, we're he's kind of navigating and trying to get out and do his own thing. And we're experiencing a number of different losses within the household, financially, like we hit a real financial brick wall, coming out of, which is why I talked about this job that I'm in right now being the Nineveh, because I never had a desire to go back to teaching full time. I didn't like the red tape. I didn't like how the teachers were talking to the kids. I didn't know that there was an out to give the kids what they really, really needed was somebody that cared in the room and administrators that understood what those kids needed, right? And so when primer came up, I was just like, what is that? And went through the fellowship. And when I literally was crying tears. Somebody had referred me to the job because of some work I had done with my kid's school, and that school shut down. And she was like, yeah, I thought you'd be really great. So I sent your name. And I was like, no, I don't want to go back.
Wow.
Like I was so resistant.
Basically, your past work
Yes.
that you've already done brought you back in.
Brought me back in.
Because it was needed. And it's probably was a good thing because most kids need, if we had more people like you just to take the time to connect with kids in the school system and just teaching alone in general, it would save more lives, more younger lives from being, in prison or dead, and just give them more opportunities to become something and not just feel empty of nothing.
Yes.
That's actually a good thing. What I want to get to next was like, how did you get that character of Mama for the Five Little Penguins? Like, how did it come about?
Well, I did auditions. So I don't want anyone to think that I had favor, right? And I have proof with Miss Lachey Jackson in the room. She knows everything. She knows everything. She's got inside scoop. But no, I mean, Devontae is one of my former students, and he's one of my students. I have several that really took it and ran, like, really believed in himself, kept God first, honored the mission God put on his heart to do, and he did it, right? And he's not doing it without struggle. Like, he's very what I love about his heart, he's very transparent about what he goes through. So which helps us because we can pray for those situations and stand in the gap and support him on that level, right? But I went through the audition process, and I showed up at the audition. Even though I knew him, I didn't come in and be like, hey, you know me, can I just get a part? Like, I literally went in and gave an audition, and they offered me the part of Mama. And so I'm very grateful for that. But, like most people, some people, you do get parts, based on who you know, because you may have worked with that director or producer before, and you go through the rounds or whatever, but they know you and they know that they can depend on the work that you're bringing to the table. But yeah, so that's how I got the part.
What is it like working with Devontae?
He's
like
amazing.
Being on set with him.
He's awesome. Like, I'm just like, how do you smile? Like, if there is anybody in the world, like, I don't think I've ever met a person that can smile even though their entire world is crumbling. Like, I never met, like, he's that one guy. Like, I look at him, I'm just like, man, God's got a reward for you, because the work that he does, he's married. He now has 3 kids. Little dude, so cute. They're all beautiful, beautiful babies, right? And D'Angela, like, when I like, they stick together. He's a true, when I think of husbands and men of God that are standing up for their wives and their women and still pushing through to be the dad, to be the working dad that does what he needs to do for his family. I look at Ravizzy and I'm like, man, like, I think you're the mold. I really do.
Most definitely.
Because I've never seen, not in my age group, and I love my dad, but there are just some things I wish he would have just told my mother no. I just, you know what I mean? I really believe in God's design for marriage, and I really believe that man has to be the leader in that household. You have to be able to step up to your wife and say, no, God said no. It's a no, because we have a whole Bible lesson right now, right? Genesis, right? When Eve took that fruit, Adam was with her. That's in the word. Adam was with her. He saw her. He was there in the garden, saw her take the fruit, and he didn't slap it out of her hand. Me and my husband, we were talking about that. We were like, he needed to reach over and just be like, watch, get that out your hand, right? But he didn't. And so we're in this cycle. One of those cycles is men step back because women be like trying to be in control of everything. You trying to control? You can't. I mean, we can't control everything. Women, let your husband be the husband of the house. You can't control everything. You gotta let the man step up to the plate and take the leadership role. And y'all have to, like you have in your own personal prayer time, God is going to give you what you need. And if it's for God to allow within that household, what God told you is going to be confirmed by the husband of the man in that house. Preach. Right? So that's where that dynamic comes in. You keeping God first. Your husband is the lead. You submit to your husband as he submits to God. Like, there is no different way. And so when we look at our family dynamics, when we look at how our families are failing, this is why our families are failing. This is why our communities are falling apart, because we try as women to be the end all be all. And that's why it doesn't work. You push it on a pull door. And that's been like my journey just through the situation I've been through, and, comparing how Teresa has been through that in the relationships, she has with her sister in the series. Like, that's been the dynamic. You trying to control everything and things ain't working out for you. Well, you have to sometimes step back and ask God, what am I doing? check my heart and allow God, you have to get to a place where you stop looking at everybody and what everyone else is their fault. Well, no, you're imperfect as well. We all have sinned and fallen short, right? We're all imperfect. So we have to step back and ask God to show me. And as he shows you the things that he wants you to work on, you work on those little by little. And that's where your healing is going to come in at.
What's something that's inspirational about Teresa as a mother that will impact other mothers?
She's a fighter. She saw, because I can't really say that I would do it, but then again, we never know what we will do until God tells us and gives us the power and the strength to do. But there's one of the biggest plots in the series, something that she does, which ultimately has a major impact on her entire family. She makes the decision, to fight for something, and everyone thinks she's crazy. It's like, you so crazy, right? But it's something that she's seriously passionate about, that she feels is impacting her entire community. And when she makes that decision, it ultimately does in a way backfire, right? And so that's something that I have to literally sit back and be like, would I be willing to do what she did if I ever had the opportunity? Could I stand up, for a community in this manner, not thinking about what would happen to me? And so I think that fire, that grit that she has, is just something that I just, like, I don't know if I would have and that's the joy of playing a character that you probably, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I can be that. I could be that with this character, but could I really do that in reality?
That wouldn't work.
Right. Well, I don't know if it would work. Like Moses told God, he was like, I don't know why you sending me. You just let my brother Aaron speak, because I can't do it. And God was like, no, I called you, right? He let him go. He let Aaron stand in for him, but Moses had to go. He still had to go through a process, and God, honored it. But he brought him. So sometimes it's not us. God has to shape us and mold us to become the people that he needs us to be. So you might not be ready. Like, I might not be ready, but that's why I said I can't say what I can't do. Because even with the job I'm in now, I was like, I had to go to God and be like, God, I feel like everything I'm doing is not working. Why do you have me here? And I'm 51. I'm like, you sent me. I need you to show me what I need to do. And that's where that humility has to come in, when you realize, A, it's not about you, it's about his kingdom, right? Uh-huh. And B, you have to let go and surrender your will for his will and allow him to work through you. You just step back. So I started getting about, I don't know what to do, you got to show me. And that's when things started happening.
Wow. It's crazy that you say that, because like you say, you 51 and you still learning a lot. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And most people think that when they get over a certain age that they know, because they live so long that they know a lot, which they may do. But we all learn as we grow. As long as we live, we still growing and we still learning. And I feel like without God, nothing could ever be real without him. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's,
it's being a lifelong learner.
They hit different.
It's really being a lifelong learner. And I just have so many things I just love that I learned being in education. And one of the key things is being a lifelong learner. And when you focus on being a lifelong learner, that means that as long as you live, you always wake up like every day is a day to learn something, right? And so I always tell my students, I'm like, ooh, y'all taught me something today. Like I'm learning a new word. I'm learning how to do something on a computer I didn't know before.
What's one of the common, like the most impactful but common things that you have learned from a student or students?
Ooh, that's a tough question. Why I do what I do. I think one kid that had the biggest impact on me, he was a thorn in my side too, my first year in teaching. I won't put his name out here, because when I tell you that young brother, like my first year teaching, he accused, and I think it was a general statement, but I took it very personally, because we were literally just coming out of being homeless, and I had gotten that job teaching. And he was like, y'all just want the paycheck. That's why y'all here. And I think I went off like that. I was like, I'm not. If you saw my paycheck, you would understand that I'm not here for that. I was making $38,000 a year.
Wow.
38,000 as a teacher. So I stood on my soapbox that day. I was like, I wish I was like, this ain't bring, I said, no, that is not why I'm here. And that's when they got my story. And so after that, like, he was still goofy, but I found what made him tick. And he ended up coming back another year for another year of theater. And he was working in the scene shop. He helped design some of the set stuff. And then he got into some trouble after he graduated, and like, it was in bad trouble. And but it took the community that was able to get him out of the trouble he was in, and he did community service and alleviated the situation. But I remember his name too, but I'm not going to put his name out there. But I mean, I think for me, that was probably the biggest impact I had, because when I saw the news break of the situation he was in, I was mortified. Like, I was like, oh my God. Like, you as a teacher, you're like, what happened? Like, where did I fail? Like, you start like trying to carry the weight, but I just think like his story impacted me the most. And I think the common thread for the students I teach, which is within, the Black community, really is these kids are lost. They have that family really breakdown. I'm telling you, like, I just feel like that family breakdown is so crucial to the needs of our kids, and our kids don't have it, and it breaks my heart, because there's only so much you can do between 8 and 3.
It is. Those hours is not have enough time to be able to really show and teach them more, because there's a lot that they lost on. So when it comes to trying to be able to illustrate something, they always going back to something different. So you might get the love, and you might get the encouragement, you might get the knowledge, you might get the care, all that for 3-4 hours or 8 hours, the whole 8 hours. But when you go back home, it's like you go out the window.
Yeah,
like, it don't mean now I'm back for what I know. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's crazy. But I appreciate you for coming through, man.
Absolutely.
Stopping by.
Enjoyed it.
It was a good conversation. I have learned a lot, you know what I'm saying? And basically just understood that as a life learner,
lifelong learner.
Lifelong learner. I never heard that before. But
a new vocabulary term for the day.
Right. See, I learn something new every day. But that's something that I'm taking stride, because I'm always learning. I'm always seeking to learn new things, new skills in some kind of way. And the crazy thing is, you never know who you could learn from.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's vocabulary of the day. Well, what you said?
Lifelong learner.
That's it. Again.
That's what's up.
One time for the one time. One try, together we vibe. Good energy, high vibration, great conversation is what we provide. This is a Good Folkz Podcast. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. I am your boy, Boy Trey. We out.